Well, good morning to everybody. Blessings on your life. It's another day that the Lord has made. Um, I wanna I wanna talk today, and I want to continue our conversation with regards to the puppet master. The puppet master. We are engaging um, this time of election. It is a critical time for all of us, and we are forced to make a decision. Whether you actively make a decision or you do not, it will not matter. If you do engage, then you will actively participate. If you don't engage, you will inactively participate by what you do not do. A lot of people don't understand that. I presented a case before you on last week as it relates to the definition between democracy and a republic or the Republicans. And I juxtaposed that to a theocracy. And I told you that a democracy is what we are. This is the space that we are in right now. Is it is to be ruled by the people, and I may mention that most of the time the people they appoint that they put somebody out front to take charge with that. I also may mention that a Republican is a little bit different because the Republican Party is law based. But there is an issue with that because now we deal with what we call interpretation, and biblically we call it hermeneutics. It is how do we define, or how do we understand, how do we interpret what the law says. Now, the Republican Party is, for the most part, they work within the Constitution. The Constitution was written with the undergirding of biblical laws or principles, and so that is what that is supposed to be. However, depending on who is looking at it and who gets in there, and the way that they were encultured, the way that they were raised, and they understand certain things, how they were taught, their understanding of that particular law or laws can be quite troubling. Conversely, the Democratic side is not a law based society per se. It is a people now that want a leadership based upon emotions and based upon feelings. It does not have to be moral, it does not have to be law based. The foundation does not have to be there. And so I contrast that with theocracy. And the theocracy is a condition or a state of the people whereby God or Jesus the Christ, in our case, Jesus the Christ, it rules the people. And he rules the people by intermediaries such as men and women that are of the same persuasion, that come from the same cloth, as it were. And so, what we do, or what they do, is they give the people the mind of God, and they are expected to operate under that umbrella, if you will. And so, as you can see, today's message is the decision. And what we want to do is, I want to kind of ignite you, if you will, um, to make a decision, because you're going to have to do that, and you're going to have to do that based upon two parties, whether you like it or not. Now, Trump is. I talked about the Democrats last week, and let me just say a little bit about the Republicans this week, right? Because it's so much to unfold, to unpack. So Trump basically has two mantras, if you will, that he is standing on. These are his foundations. The first one is "Make America Great Again." Make America great again. Let's just talk about that a little bit, because I get accused a lot of times of being a Trump supporter, and I am not. And I really want to. I know last week we talked about First Samuel, the eighth chapter, and I want to give you the God piece of this, because even though I am opposed to Trump, Trump is indicative, or he represents a biblical piece that I have to highlight. Now, he runs on his merits that he's trying to um, fall back on is "Make America Great Again." Make America Great Again. Now, Kamala opposed that, and she says it's the same old playbook, and I have to agree with her. And I'm gonna deal with facts here, because there's a few sides here. You have an emotional side, you have a fact side, you have a spiritual side. So it is the same old playbook, and I want to talk a little bit about that, because we have a lot of people that are for Trump, and a lot of people are not. A lot of people that are for Kamala, and a lot of people are not. So when we say "Make America Great Again," the first thing that I want to say is that that is a very subjective and relative term, or an understanding, or a position to take, because when you say "Make America Great Again," "Make America Great Again," who are you talking to? Who is your audience? And with what regard do you mean that? When I hear "Make America Great Again," I don't get warm and fuzzy. Although I appreciate America, I live in America, which is I would not want to live in any other country outside of America, but maybe I wouldn't, because I've not lived in any other country, right? So, but my reference point to "Making America Great Again" goes back to I look at things that happened to my ancestors. I look at some things that I dealt with. I remember in the '70s, the early '70s, I was actually a part of the race riots, and I distinctively remember my mother having to stand at the end of the street. Our school was about a mile away from us, and my mother would stand at the end of the street and watch us walk home, because we had to engage in fights, and I would have to fight every day, 5 to 10 white boys. And where they was collectively getting this information from and this hatred, I don't know, but it was something that I experienced. And so make America Great Again has different connotations for different people. Now, let me just point out a couple things here, because when you say "Make America Great Again," blacks are 25% more likely to be pulled over by police than white people. 25%. Okay. Blacks are 3 times more likely to be searched by police than white people. Search and frisk is 47% versus 28% for white folks. Search and frisk. Okay. And we won't even get into opportunity, the wealth gap, and annual salaries, just to name a few. But we're talking about "Make America Great Again." So when you say "Make America Great Again," you have to qualify that and also quantify that with a certain demographic, or with respect to what, and to who, when you say "Make America Great Again." So I am of the persuasion that I analyze. I'm a very analytical person, and I've lived long enough now to experience a whole lot of things, and so you just can't push something down my throat. So when you say to me "Make America Great Again," to me that is food for thought, and I just ain't gonna run with that. And I've been listening to a lot of people run with, and I can understand why white folks would run with that, because "Make America Great Again" meant something different from them. The other premise that Trump is standing upon is law and order, law and order. So you got Make America Great Again, and you got law and order. And so law and order is another position now that we have to consider from a decision perspective, because um, we're going to have to deal with this. And one of the things that I fear, it's embedded in my heart, because people, they may say that uh, Trump is he's a good person, and I'm not saying that he's not a good person. I will not say that Trump is racist, although I've heard a whole lot of things. I can't personally say that because I can't read the man's heart, or I have not engaged the man, so I don't know that. Here's what I do know is that Trump, he breathes, he spews a certain spirit. Okay. And that spirit is hatred, fear, and racism. Now, I'm not saying that he hates. I'm not saying that he's trying to project fear as much as maybe a strong hand. And I'm not trying to say that he is a racist. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that the people that surround him are. And so a lot of times you can have a dictator, and he brings about a dictatorship. It feels like a dictatorship. Now, I know this is antithetical. This is opposing to how I've talked in the past, and I'm saying all this for a reason, because I'm saying it because I want you to make a decision, and then I'm going to give you my overall uh, breakdown of this at the close of this right here. But I want to just lay it all out there, because one of the bigger problems is that we are making choices uninformed, and you make choices based on feelings and emotions and all that. So when you say law and order means something different for black folks than it does for white folks, or even brown folks in many cases. Law and order is legislation. It is legislation that has been passed. That is, the gavel has hit it. The ink is on it, and it is something that we should all live by. The problem with that is that we all don't live by it. So when you say law and order is legislation in many cases for white folks, but it is prison and it is punishment for black people in many cases. I'm not saying all, not carte blanche, but what I'm saying is, again, it's relative. And so that means that law and order, depending on the spirit now, again, he's running on that. That is the foundation, one of his foundations. And when people hear that, if you recall, and when he was uh, in his presidential seat the last time, there was a spirit. And most black folks that I know, in my experience, was I never embraced a time before where I had fear. And the Bible says in Timothy, God has not given us a spirit of fear, but love, power, and a sound mind. And fear gripped me, and I was afraid for my life. I was afraid for my son's life. I was afraid for a lot of African American boys and men, because of not so much perhaps what Trump had in his heart. I don't know what that is, but because of the spirit, and it produces a spirit. It unleashed a spirit that was very troubling for certain demographics. Okay. And hatred, it was like the exposure of hatred. If hatred was embedded inside of a person, it was the unlocking, the unchaining, the unveiling of hatred. And everybody just came out, and they started talking about what they didn't like, and most of it was race related or color related. And so you have all these different things that are going on, but what's behind it now, again, is law and order, right? again, when you look at law and order, you have to look at what's predominantly governing, cities and certain areas. It's governed by a white hand. Again, you got to keep in mind that population for Black people is just under 14%. And for white folks is between 73, 74, 75, something like that. I don't remember now. So when you go out and if there's a chastening, a chastisement, or correction to be made, it's typically going to be made by a white hand. And so when you have the spirit that Trump has made mention at times that he can do certain things and get away with it. He talked about what he could do with women and get away with it. He talked about what he could do as it relates to crime to people and get away with it. And so with that, it breeds a spirit. Now the police force, they feel as if they're protected. The government protects them. Law and order protects them, so they can go out and they can see a little black boy walking down the street and they can just shoot him and ain't nothing gonna happen, and they don't think twice about it. And so these are some of the things now that comes to mind when I think about the decision that I have to make as it relates to Trump. And I'm just giving you a very truncated um, piece of it because I told you this is going to be pretty in depth. I took my truck to the shop the other day just to have an oil change, and while I was at the shop, I was outnumbered, and rightfully so, or it just based upon the demographics where I was at, that's the way it was going to be. So I was in there, and I was the only black, and it was about six white folks that was in there. And again, the climate now is the atmosphere, the spirit. And so I was in there with, I almost felt like it was the Proud Boys. And so they were having a discussion about the the uh, the debate, and the two things that they were concerned about was guns, number one, and two was that um, Trump would do what needed to be done with the immigrants and with people that they felt was un out of order, right? And so they talked about, people need to be put in jail and this, that, and the other. And I could tell that they were waiting for me to chime in to say something so they could go in on me. I could feel it. I sensed it. And you just needed to hear the vernacular that was coming out of their mouths, whatnot. And I knew it was a place that I needed to get out of because I was outnumbered and they had my number. Not only that, two of them had pistols on their hip, and even the folks that were in the parts department, they came out to engage in the conversation. And this was a bit problematic for me, and I just didn't know how to think about it. But what it made me think about is um, King Martin Luther King said this. He says, "The ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands at times of challenge and controversy." That was taken out of Strength to Love in 1963. The reason why I mention that is because I had to be reintroduced to a reality that a lot of people feel. Now I'm getting to the emotional part, the feeling part. And when I looked at that, or when I experienced that, when I was in the midst of it, um, I was ready to change directions hard because I am not a Trump supporter by no means, but and I'm gonna get to First Samuel 8 here in a second. Um, but I do feel that Trump overall will be better for America, even though I know everything that I just said. And I promise you, I'm not voting for Trump. I am not going to vote for Trump, and I am certainly not going to vote for Kamala. And I'm going to get to that in a minute. And this is something that I'm struggling with because my message today is make a decision. So and I'm going to qualify that. I am going to have to make a decision whether I actively or inactively make that decision. However, with Trump, because of some of the things, the ground that he stands on, it is going to be quite difficult for me to check the box. The last time I did not check the box, I checked the box for me. But I can't check the box for him, and I can't check the box for Kamala because there are too many grievances that I have with both sides, and so I'm engaged with God right now to help me to understand what to do here because I am at an impasse. I don't quite know what direction that I need to go in. So um, as we look at this whole thing, I had to come face to face with some of the rhetoric, and that is the conversation that has been taking place around me. And most of that has been big fanfare for Kamala Harris. And I experience that bear hug of racism again. I experience the hatred. I was in the midst of it, and I said, I don't want to feel like that again. And and I know that if Trump gets in the office, I is going to present a a big worry for me, a big concern for me because of what he brings, not him directly per se, but what he brings. Okay, because people, when you look at the way certain people were raised with hatred in them, and this is sad to say, people were raised racist. And so when you get a president in there, and these are some of the things that I like about Trump. One of the things I like that, man, Trump is what you see is what you get. And I like that. If you don't like me, tell me you don't like me. But don't smile in my face and then stab me in my back. And so with him, he just brings with him a spirit that is released in the atmosphere in the United States of America that let people be free and they hang out. And when what you see out of this freedom is racism in many regards and hatred. Racism, hatred, and it spews fear. It spews fear. And so with that, um, I I am heavily challenged with that. Um, Conversely, Kamala, she is running on the merits of a new way forward or something like that is what she's doing. The issue with Kamala, number one, it's lawlessness and there is no morals. Okay, so people say, well, what why would you not vote for her or what is the issue? And this is the challenge that I have with most people is that if you are going to vote for her, tell me why. If you're going to vote for Trump, tell me why or tell me why not. So for me, the rationale with her is that even when you look at the debate, you could tell that she was groomed, she was polished. After that, she did an interview and she just bombed on that. I mean, horribly bombed on that, and she couldn't answer questions. But her thing for me, and what was different with Trump, I saw what Trump did, and I saw what he did. Okay, so his track record speaks. Although there was a lot of bad stuff, but there was a lot of good stuff, and so I saw that. I could measure that. I could quantify that, qualify it with Kamala, when you say, just like Trump said at the end of the debate, he says, "Yeah, you guys have been there for almost 4 years now. and you talk about, she says, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, we're going to do the other. Well, why, number one, why aren't you doing it now, and why haven't you done it before? All of a sudden you gonna champion all these different things that we need, small businesses and education and middle class and all that stuff. Well, you ain't did nothing now. So what makes me believe, or us believe, that you're gonna do something going into the future? You in there right now. And Maya Angelou said, believe people when they what you see, people. But I forget exactly, and I can't think of it, but basically what she was saying is, people show you who they are and believe them. So they already showing us who they are, but she could not outline a direction, or of how she was going to do something. If you're going to bring jobs back, and you're going to put more money into middle class people and pockets, and you're going to help poor people, then how are you going to do that? I mean, there's going to be some tax breaks. If it's going to be tax breaks, how, or tax incentives or tax increases, whatever it may be, how are you going to do that? I don't. She didn't make none of that clear. None of the stuff that she said that she's going to do is clear to me. And so for me, two schools of thought here. That is, I don't believe she knows nothing that she's going to do. I don't think that she's cut for it. I think she's awkward. She's an awkward opponent for Trump. And Trump, he can't debate her like he has in the past with men, or perhaps with Hillary, because of her demographic. And so it's very awkward. But for her not knowing, and I don't even believe the people that's with her, that they know, or they probably even care. It's just a momentum thing right now. It's just it's a high thing. It's like, I just want change, and but we're not thinking this thing through. And so you have that. And number two is that there is no God element in it whatsoever. There's no God element in it whatsoever. I gotta close. I'm already over my time now. um in First Samuel, the eighth chapter, Samuel is plagued. I'm gonna say he's plagued with um, the the thing to give the people of Israel a king. And uh, God, it is opposing to God. God does not want that, because God wanted to be their king, but He wanted to be their king through judges and through His own way. And so they didn't want that. They wanted to be like the rest of the people. However, when Samuel appointed his two sons were not exactly righteous or right before the people or before God. I'm going somewhere here. But I need to scurry along now. The issue, and the same issue that we have with Trump, and this is where the decision piece comes in at, because just as you look at Samuel's sons, you have to look at Trump. Samuel's sons were not right, but yet they were God's choice. Trump is not right, but I believe that he is God's choice, with all the everything, all the concerns that I have. And I am telling you, I'm at a gridlock, and I'm scared to, I'm scared. I'm very challenged for him to get in for Black people of America. Yet it is ultimately, I believe, it is God's choice. Why? Because He is going to do something for God. It's just like the sons of Samuel. God had them there. It didn't take God by surprise. He knew that they wasn't right, but yet He chose them, and He was going to deal with them. He's choosing Trump, and He's going to deal with Trump. Okay. It is the permissive will that Kamala that the Lord allows Kamala. And it is a very good chance that Kamala will be the next president of these United States of America. But it is the permissive will. So I'm trying to get you to see something, and I'm trying to say it. And I don't have but a you know a teaspoon of time to say it in. He is God's choice. As wrong as he is, Trump is. Kamala is not, because Kamala, when you look at it from a biblical standpoint, from a godly standpoint, she brings nothing to the table spiritually, godly. It's just not there. She is supporting anything goes and every voice counts. It can never be a theocracy when anything goes and every voice counts. Now, even with a Republican that is law based and there's a misinterpretation of laws that is basically undergirded by the Bible, the Constitution, God can still work with that because it's still there. It may be tainted, but it is still there. Now, don't get me wrong, we're still choosing between two evils, and it's the lesser of two evils. Now, let me just say this because it's a lot that I need to say, and I'm not going to be able to say it, but let me just say this, and I'm gonna close. I believe this. This is my summary of everything in making a decision. I believe this, that ultimately I am conceding at this point, because I can't, in clear consciousness vote for Trump, although, and you might think that I'm this is, dude, you talking outside of your neck. First you say that he's God's man, but then you say you won't vote for him. I'm more comfortable with him. Okay. I'm not going to say that I can check the box, because there's just this other side that's going to be very grimace for me. However, I'm going to say this, that um, I am conceding um, to the blue side. Not that I'm taking the blue side. I am conceding because I believe that the momentum is going towards the blue side. Now, it's going to be a very close race. Here's what I'm going to say in closing. If Trump wins, that is God saying that I'm having mercy on America. As bad as it's going to be. And I ain't even got into the prophecy part, because prophecy has to be defined. In this prophecy piece right here, it is prophecy that cannot be averted. It cannot be changed. Okay, and we'll talk about that later. Maybe next week we'll talk about that. But he is saying to us that I am going to have mercy upon America with all the adversary that we're going to have. If Kamala gets in there, he is going to expedite prophecy. That means that God is a merciful God, but he is going to allow the floodgates to come quicker because of sin, and the waxing worse of sin based upon leadership and the direction of the people. And so that is going to usher in the coming of the king sooner than later. Now, my position on that is that I'm trying to prolong that because I want saved souls to be saved. However, I may not be able. That may not happen. And so, with that, I'm saying, all right, this is what y'all want. Come, Lord, come. Um, it is not God's will um, that Kamala Harris, my spiritual and prophetic opinion, it is not God's will that the Democrats take over the country. It is God's permissive will. He is allowing it. Now, you have to read biblically to understand, biblically to understand more of what I'm saying, even in First Samuel 8, chapter 8 through 15. Because when we get to 16, David comes on the scene. Um, so anyway, I hope you got something out of this message today. I want you to know that I love you. God loves you so much more. I want you to be blessed. I want you to go in God's love, God's speed, God's might, God's power. But most of all, I want you to go in God's grace. I want you to subscribe, like. I want you to give this a thumbs up. and share with a friend, a neighbor, and even perhaps an enemy. I am Dr. Donnie Eatman. I am the face of Face to Face. I want you to be blessed, to have a good day, and I want you to think about what has been said today, and I want you to make a decision based upon that. I want you to consider, I want you to arm yourself with the necessary things. And no matter how this all ends up and what you see out there, know this: there's a puppet master, and that puppet master is Satan himself. He is the demon Kasi, the demon Krasi. He is the in in democracy that is behind the scene, that is pushing the people forward to do his agenda, because he is the counterfeit to a theocracy. And so he's the puppet master and that is behind all this. Hosea 4 and 6, my people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge. So arm yourself with knowledge. I want you to be blessed. I love you so much. Go in God, and God will go with you. Shalom.